All right, JR. Today we got a great guest, Todd Busler, who's the CEO and founder of Champify, which is an enterprise software that helps companies identify people who've left and that were previous champions so that they can sell more. He's doing it on LinkedIn and he's got 33,000 followers. His posts are awesome. The proof is in the pudding. Go check him out. We're going to get into that, like how he discovered this system that he has for posting really great content on LinkedIn, why he does it, the struggle with it, how he thinks about it, his mindset. I think that's the best takeaway for founders out there is how to replicate Todd's mindset and the way he approaches this. It's actually something that he enjoys to do. Tune in. This is a good one.
Great. Let's talk to him. You know, you're making some choices about where you spend your time. And so I think that's probably a great place to start because as startup founders, do you really have time for this stuff? But you're prioritizing it. Why is the personal brand a priority for you? Or do you even think about it as personal branding?
All right. So when I started Champify, I was like, I mean, the whole company is around the premise that outbound sales is going to keep getting harder, right? Like I built
Mhm.
Keep. I was a big, I was the first rep, then the first leader, and then the first VP of sales. We were heavy outbound, like 80% plus outbound. Never had a marketer in seat more than 16 months. We got really good at hiring junior SDRs and like early adopters of outreach and all the tools to like that thing hummed in 2016, 2017. It started to hit a wall, and I'm like, all right, it's not going to be so easy to follow that same playbook. When I start Champify, I picked up David Gerhardt's book on founder brand. I'm like, yes, it's smart. Like I should make myself the quote unquote face of this thing, right? This was like I wasn't even thinking around like how do we scrape LinkedIn comments and understand who's engaging and like go target all of them. It was just like how do I get people to know who we are? Like I feel like the first 3 years of my experience at Heap, you start every call and it's like Heap, what? Like I was just like, how can I get past that to like, all
Yeah.
right. And I think our name is better. Like people are like, oh, Champify, like okay, it's clear.
Yeah.
But
Job
I
and I
was
worked for an advertising company called Adroll, and
I know
every call
Adderall.
started with Adderall.
You guys sell
Yeah,
Adderall, which we would have made more money selling Adderall. That stuff is addictive.
that would have been good timing on that shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, for me, it was just like the reason why I spend time here is like, all right, if you think about the activity, is all I care about is like getting as much of our target market to know who we are and how we think. And like the reach on social is insane, right? Like the biggest regret I have is like, I wish I started writing about stuff earlier, even before I launched Champify, right? And I think the launch would have been way bigger. And I had some really smart mentors of mine be like, start writing, start writing. And I was like, you're an idiot. Like, I just get made fun of by my friends. I don't feel like doing this. And like, I was completely wrong, right? And now, like, the LinkedIn reach, it is insane, right? Like, it's really insane. You can invest, and I do this. I write 3 posts a week. I spend most Sunday nights writing. It takes a lot of time. Sure, AI can like help you like clarify some ideas or thoughts, but it's really mostly telling stories about stuff you've learned the hard way, like earned, right? And it takes a lot of time, but how else can you like spend 3 hours a week and get 250,000 people to hear who you are? Like the reach is just insane. So once I started to see like, okay, wow. And I started to correlate with like, oh, you get better at writing hooks, more people see this. You get better at being vulnerable and telling a story like this, more people see this. And basically, I think it's like one of the highest per dollar activities someone could do from an awareness perspective. Now, like, is it worth it? I think so. Can I completely measure it? No. But so many of our calls that are outbound booked via a rep on my team making a cold call that start with like, oh, I've been following your CEO for a while. I really agree with what he has to say. Like, definitely doesn't hurt, right? And like for again, a handful of hours a week, it feels like a no-brainer.
Yeah. And like the play as the young rep who doesn't know the industry super well, is starting to learn the industry, is able to bring a CEO or a CTO on a call, usually carries a lot of weight. When you've got the audience already built up, somebody saying, hey, I'm going to bring Todd. Sure, I bet that's a healthy, like good ego stroke, but it's also like a smart strategy,
Yeah, the
right?
conversation starts with a little bit of like guard is down, trust is established. Now, like, who are you? What
Mm-hmm.
is this? Right? They're kind of like,
Yeah.
oh, I've been following some of your stuff. Like, I may not agree with everything you say, but like you've earned the right to have these opinions. Okay, like
Yeah.
the first conversation starts from a less defensive position. That's 100% true. Um, and a lot of people already kind of know how I think by the time I get on the call, right? So you're kind of accelerating that awareness, kind of what's our philosophy. And like if you disagree, you're never going to get on the call with us anyway, so it's okay.
Let's get to that. So you started posting, you bought Founder Brand by Dave Gerhardt. We love that book too. So you bought that while you were still working at Heap and a VP, or
No,
as
after Heap, I spent a year as an operator in residence at a venture firm. Basically, I was burnt out 6 years. I was like just sick of
Hmm.
thinking about the same problem every single day. Took 3 months off, didn't open my laptop. And then someone hit me up to say, hey, I heard you're good at this early stage stuff. Come work at our venture firm. We invest in nerdy founders that don't know how to do go to market, be on our payroll, help them. And I was like, okay, I'll learn venture from the other side. I'll see a bunch of early stage companies. I think they were hoping I jumped into one of their companies as like an early sales leader. And about 6 months into that run, I was like, I'm going to start a company. And that eventually how we got to Champify.
got it. And when
That's
did you
awesome.
start posting? Was it during that 6-month run or after?
I like did a little bit when I was at Unusual, but not much. It was really like the 2, 3 months leading up to I'm starting Champify. Let's start like getting some content engine going.
Good for you.
And did you get that moment where your friends are making fun of you?
100%. All my college group
What
chat ripping on me.
take
Yeah.
take me back there.
Yeah, but I want to feel, Todd, I want to feel it.
I knew this. I was just like, yep, this is going to happen. Group chat from college, friends from home. Like, there's always some meme about, people talking on LinkedIn and then like, look at Todd today, look at Todd. Like, okay, that's it. But again, like you have some posts that all of a sudden go pretty viral and people start coming inbound and we have like a 30K average deal and you're like, the value of this is really high. I'm completely okay getting made fun of in this chat.
Yeah.
And then now, like, there's a lot of interesting opportunities that come just from starting to like write online that I know people had talked about, but I was now starting to see more and more. Like certain people will answer you that wouldn't have answered you, or interesting opportunities for jobs. I've like the blinders on for that one, but like some of that stuff does come up.
How about fundraising? I didn't look to see if you've raised any money with Champify, but you know about venture.
We raised money before I started really posting. I think we raised money because someone liked our background. They're like, okay, you understand this problem. I think it would help if we would go raise a lot of money. Right now we're profitable and like we may raise more money, but like, and I think it would help, but at this moment it's not the goal. But I do think it would help. We get a lot of interest from investors. I don't take most of the meetings just because I don't raise money right now. But I'm sure it would help.
Like, do you think raising money, even though you're already profitable, would you do it because it's like gives you a big buzz and now you might get some more generate demand in pipeline? Or is it like, oh, I've got this project that I couldn't fuel otherwise. So outside getting some money, I could go and execute on this AI project or something.
And it's a deep question. I don't actually know much. Actually, I don't really care. I think that the category we're in, there's like a lot of VC players putting a lot of money in. And I think a lot of people that have raised big Series A's probably earlier than they should have. I think a big chunk of those people are going to make zero money.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, it's more about keeping some optionality open until all of a sudden I'm like, all right, we can go from a few million to 10 million with super high confidence if I raise this money. Okay, that's a little bit different story. There's some bets we're making that maybe give me that confidence, but I'm going to be like as close to 100% sure before I go down that path. I'm not there yet.
Roger.
And like, again, maybe that's wrong and I'm like not ambitious enough, but I've just seen a lot of the founders raise way too much money, grind for 8 years, not make $1 on their equity. That like, until I have more confidence on that, I'm just not going to play that game.
Love it. I'm a fan of Adam Robinson. So I'm like, yeah, why?
Yeah, what's challenging is like his thing, right? Like it's incredible what he's doing, like incredible, but it's super S&B product, massive TAM. You can really sell to everyone. Like sometimes I'm jealous that I don't have a product like that where I think the founder audience would even help so much more.
But y'all are an enterprise. He's got churn problems and
I agree with you, Joe, about different problems in the business, right? But like a massive market, I think the audience matters even more. Like we have a pretty narrow ICP today. We're working on expanding that with some different products and stuff. But still the audience, there's someone at every 3,000 like of our target accounts that follows me there and is like at least knows what I'm talking about. But it's a different play in terms of like drive a bunch of inbound signups through some post.
Gotcha. Can we back up a bit to when you were talking about that college friend group chat in your first couple of posts? Do you have a moment or a post that you remember where you got your first, I don't know, because when you post, you get like, the first one you ever do gets up 50, 100 likes because your whole network's like, oh, great. And then the second.
Joe, I'll go first, even though this isn't about me. I started a YouTube channel, Todd. And at the time, the YouTube channel advice was a very expressive selfie would get people to know what it was. So I had a very surprised look. And I got so many Photoshops texted. It was actually the same person. It was not a college friend, but friend from an early startup. That guy has so much time in his hands to Photoshop things into my mouth and send them to me. I was like, what the actual fuck? Like, I'm out here trying to make something happen for myself.
Yeah, I think, it's usually the people that aren't like putting themselves out there that are making fun of you. I don't really care. I think to answer your question, Joe, is like, I quickly realized and learned from studying other people, like what actually gets people to look at what you're writing. And you can either make fun of those people that like have a specific format and how they write or the way they tell stories, or you can say, okay, this is the game, and if my goal is to get as many of my potential customers to see what I'm writing, then I'm going to play that. But that means like you tell stories and you're writing the block text and you do this stuff, and that's when people are like, oh, you're one of these LinkedIn guys now? Like this is you now? And I'm like, unfortunately, yes, but here's why it matters, right? And like, we'll see who's laughing in a couple of years type of thing. But honestly, it didn't deter me at all. Like I knew that's coming. I don't care.
That's great. Because I don't know, maybe sales hardened you, being a like lifelong sales career that you had. You knew that you have to bust through that pain. Whereas I think other founders that don't have the sales background, if they're technical in nature, they really struggle, especially if they're super smart and technical. It's like engineer types can't be wrong, but that's
it can't be wrong. They haven't heard no so many times. Like, look, I've been doing sales for 15 years in some capacity, and like, cool career, probably like 4 out of every 5 deals we chase, we lose. And, like you hear no every time. I still prospect every single day, and most people don't answer, right? Like, so I think that's probably true. Like for me, it's just like, it didn't even faze me 1 minute. I'm like, oh yeah, it's just part of it. All hard things or all the valuable things, they suck in the beginning and you're going to be bad at them. And like, okay, that's the name of the game.
I'm thinking in shorts now, but I would love to take that and just implant it into every founder's brain. Because I think you kind of intuitively know it, but you expected it, so you were able to bash through it. Whereas we talked to other founders who are like, bro, it takes me an hour to write a simple post, and I hate it the whole time because I feel like I'm writing an ad, and I'm an engineer, and I care about craft. So
I think everyone has to find their voice too that doesn't feel like complete work. I actually like writing now. I find myself like I have a good way to capture ideas. I have a whole backlog of ideas I want to write about. I sit down and turn on music and turn everything off, and like I can get a lot done, and it like pressure tests a lot of your thinking. So I actually look forward to it. It doesn't feel like work to me. And it does suck, don't get me wrong, when you like put all this effort and you're like, oh, it's gonna be a banger, and then like no one looks at it. Yeah, it sucks. But like again, I have no idea when posts are gonna go really big or not. And if I sat there and said like, oh, this is gonna work amazingly, I've been wrong so many times. And for like dumb throwaway ones, they've gone wild, and I don't understand why. So like for me, it's just like, cool, it's at bats, keep doing it.
That's cool. So tell us the system. So do you keep a doc? Do you brainstorm? Do you voice memo?
So I basically have a long Apple, this super simple tech, like just a doc on my phone. I like jot down ideas. I find a lot of them come like in the gym, walking the dog, whatever it is, and like it turns into bullets. Then I spend most of the time writing the hook, And then from the hook, it's like, all right, here's the post. Most of my posts are like hook, story, takeaway, and like kind of fit that format. And then there's like, now that I've gotten like slightly more advanced or needed like, you know, you run out of shit to say too. So like the idea capture is really important. I use this app called Whisper now I like, where I just talk to my phone. And I find that's good, just like random 2 minutes of ideas like put together. I do that when I'm driving a lot. I'm like talking to my phone, capturing ideas. And then it's just, okay, write the format. And the advice someone gave me, which I wish I listened earlier, is like spend 10 times the amount of time on the hook than you do in the post. And like, that's so true. And then I just have a Notion doc, and I kind of categorize like what type of post this is. And as the company's gotten bigger, you know, there's like certain things I want to make sure I'm talking about. So I've gotten a little bit more formulaic and like, okay, in 2 weeks out, I want to talk about this because it coincides with a launch or something, right? But it's really not that scientific. It's like I post Saturday, Tuesday, Thursday, never miss. And I try to have like a week in advance of that, so I'm not like ever scrambling. And life happens, right? You miss it for a week and then you catch back up, but that's roughly the format I follow, and it works.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Have you gotten to the place at work where marketers or other people are requesting to get into your posting stream? Like, how do you manage that? Is that a thing?
Yeah, a bit. I mean, it's interesting. Like, you know, see our marketing team like, oh, we're doing this. I'm like, who cares what we even say on the Champify account? Like 10 people see it, right? So I'm like, they're like, okay, can you talk about this? So yes, that does happen. And again, that's where it's like, okay, it's getting like a little more, I don't know if competitive is the word for the slots, but like, you know, a little bit more planned out in advance. But I also capture a lot of great ideas from the team. Like I'll listen to a snippet of a call. I'm like, boom, I'm going to talk about this. The rep asked me a hard question. I'm like, shit, that's great. Here, I'm going to answer it in public instead. You know, like ideas come from everywhere, from talking to competitors to listening to calls to doing a deal review to like training a BDR. Like I just take everything that I'm doing and I'm like, all right. And to go to your question, Jay, you said like you said like you're writing, I forget who said it. You said like you're writing for the younger seller up in their career. Like I try to think about, I'm writing for a singular person, and it's me at 25 years old that got put in the sales leadership role. I was like pretty smart and knew how to sell and like roughly was good at Salesforce reports, and I was a sales engineer, like a little nerdier, but I didn't know what I didn't know. So my whole thing is like, how do I help that 25-year-old me 10 years ago fast track some of those learnings? And like, that's the person I try to write for.
Oh, masterclass video right there. That's what a lot of our clients don't have. They're just kind of talking, and it's like, no, you have to think of a specific you 10 years ago. How do you get from you exactly what you just said, bro? Love that.
I'll tell you, there's people that are a lot better. I'll tell you the thing that I haven't figured out, that I look at some people and I'm like, that's so good. And like, this is part of DG's book where he's like, who's the enemy? We don't have a supernatural enemy, you know? Like, I think some people, Adam was really good at like making the enemy sixth sense, and he attacked the hell out of it, and that worked for a while, right? Others are like a style of X doing work, whatever. We don't have that super clear enemy. That's one thing like I wish I could have figured out.
If you went back in time and you're writing at Heap, who is the enemy at Heap?
This sounds super nerdy and like in the weeds, but basically Heap had one key differentiator versus anyone in the market, and it was everywhere else, if you want to do web or product analytics, you need an engineer to like write some tracking code, which is like janitorial work no one wants to do. So like that was the thing we could attack, and it was like, don't do that thing. It's basically like you have to do manual tracking to be able to understand who's clicking a button. An engineer goes and says, I want to track this event, right? Super in the weeds, but like it was the only reason why people bought us is because like they hated that thing.
And everybody knew what manual tracking meant.
I mean, in our audience, right? I couldn't
get
the same widespread like views on stuff, because sales, like everyone kind of understands it. But yeah, like if we were Heap early on, I wouldn't have done it from me. I would have done it from the founder who was like engineer and product. And I'd be like, just write about why this sucks 3 days a week, every single day, and it's going to help us.
Yeah. So the reason why I was asking about Heap is because I've got this theory that it's much easier to think about a business that you're not still in when you try to come up with the enemy.
That's probably
right? Because it's probably one of those things where like you have a lot of enemies that are hard to address when you're standing so close to them.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. I mean, I find myself doing that all the time, where I'm like, meet another founder and I'm like, your problem's so easy. Like, go do these 2, 3 things. And then I'm sitting here staring at the fucking wall. And I'm like, I know me giving
Yeah.
me advice would be like, this is simple, right? It's
Yeah.
that thing is true.
And I'm sure that you had the experience where, like, as an advisor or operator in residence, you're telling a bunch of founders what to do. As soon as you become a founder, you see those same people you're giving advice to. Now that you're a founder, they can't wait to give you advice, because all they do is sit in office hours and get the shit beat out of them all day at like YC or whatever. And then as soon as the tables turn, you go, this is the problem I'm having. I've just seen founders just jump on that and be like, oh yeah, let me tell you exactly what to do, because they're in that like almost defense, reactive posture all day long. But that, I think, is that's a different problem. But the idea that we're close to our problems and it makes it hard to pick a problem and make it a villain, that's something that I personally struggle with.
I definitely do too. And I guarantee if I had 3 other founder friends, I could be like, here's the enemy, attack it. You know, I agree with you. I don't know why, but that is true.
Yeah. Why do you think some people video takes off for them and for you it hasn't?
I don't know. I'm asking, you guys are the experts. I don't know. Like, you know, we started a podcast. The content's awesome. Like, again, thinking about me at 25, I would pay to listen to what these people are coming on. Like, great guests.
Yeah.
I don't really know how to get people to see it. And maybe, you know, it's just the wrong framing and it's like, hey, there's a long tail. People will eventually discover this. I don't know. I'm not a marketing expert. I have 10 times more respect for marketing than I did before I started Champify. I used to be like, sales is way harder. No, marketing's way harder. And I don't know the answer, but I would like to figure it out.
Yeah. What would happen if you did figure it out? Like, what do you think that would open the door for?
I don't know. I think there's something about video that's more authentic, right? Like, people can see me writing and they could be like, all right, kind of hear how this person thinks, but you miss a lot of the emotion. You miss a lot of the, like, who is this person behind the keyboard talking? It feels more like, oh, now I really understand and know this person. You see this if you listen to like for instance, I listen to almost every My First Million podcast by Sam Parr. I feel like I know the guy, right?
Yeah.
If I just read all his blogs, which I used to back in the day, I didn't have that same type of connection. What does that mean? I don't know. Right? It's definitely positive though.
Yeah, even just the audio, like the podcast, even not watching, just hearing their voice, you think, you know, once you become a real fan, and like I've got podcasts I've been listening to for 10 years now, religiously. Was that post something that you really love? Like, do you fall in love with certain posts, or do you have a favorite?
I think the vulnerability stuff just really works. I don't look at here and like, how can I fabricate a story? I'm like, I have to think about like, all right. And I capture this, like I slack myself like shitty moments or wins. I forget who's taught me that, but like, and then I'll go back and be like, all right, I'm gonna write about this. I think vulnerability just really works. And I think whenever I have a genuine story to tell about it, like that story, so many people have felt, you know, like if you've been any type of decent sales leader, you're always recruiting top talent. People leave, things happen, no bad blood on the person. Everyone has to do what's best for them. But like, that sucks, you know, like that feeling sucks. And if you felt that, like, you know that. So that's why I think that type of stuff resonates. But I'm not super intentional about like, oh, I have to write a sad story this week. You know, I just try to pepper them in as they come up in that kind of idea factory.
Yeah. I've decided lately I'm a pretty avoidant person when it comes to certain things about putting myself out there. I want to do more than I do. Some people would probably be surprised to hear that, because they're like, oh, you put yourself out there a lot. But there are a few of these little things. It's like, I think I'd do a better job of this if 1 or 2 things got out of the way. And so my goal for next week, I'll share this with you guys. You tell me if it's stupid or not. My mother's recently got on LinkedIn. And so I found it has increased how self-conscious I've been of some of my posting. And so she's coming to visit, and, you know, not to see me. She's here to see the kids, obviously, but nobody gives a shit about me. But anyway, so I'm going to make it a point to talk to her about how some of the things that I want to share are lessons that may not seem like they're completely in the past, but Mom, I promise you I'm okay. You know, the framing has to be the lesson, but I don't need the text, oh, are you okay? What's going on? And I also want to find a tactful way to be like, I don't need you in the comments either.
Yeah.
This isn't going to help my cause. But you'll probably see Peggy chiming in from now and then. But does that seem so stupid that I'm hung up on my mother's engagement in my social posts?
I get that. I don't think that's weird. But I mean, like, look, the vulnerability stuff works, right? Like, and the why, I think it's the same thing to your question, like, why does video work? It just is the human, right? And like, as every product and every service looks more and more similar every day, like it matters, right?
Yeah.
So like I try to push myself too to be like, capture those stories. Like when I feel like shit, remember this and write about it later because other people feel that.
Todd, have you read the book, The Trusted Advisor?
No.
So every sales rep that I know selling enterprise says they want to be the client's trusted advisor. Like it's like the thing that everybody says. But it actually comes from this book that's 30 years old from David Meister and his team. It's about these two lawyers who tried to figure out how to sell legal services like 30, 40 years ago. And basically they lay out this idea that one thing that will dramatically increase trustworthiness is lowering self-orientation, right? We pick on the car dealer because it's the highest value personal purchase of somebody we don't have a relationship with. Real estate, well, your real estate agent probably lives in the neighborhood or wants to sell your next house or whatever, right? But the car dealer's that's not going to be the case. And so I hear a lot of reps say like, I want to be the trusted advisor, but it's really, they say it just comes down to 4 elements. The biggest one being how to show the self-orientation piece, which is why vulnerability works. When you share something or you share a competitor's price, like I was just on a phone with a founder today who sells lumber, and sometimes he'll stop off at a competitor on the way to his job site and buy materials that he's out of stock on and eat the cost and show up and be like, yeah, I've got, 90 of your 2x4s, but 10 of them I had to go buy from this other lumber mill. And he said the reaction he gets is ridiculous. He's just thinking, I'm embarrassed. I'm trying to save face and also make good on my client. But the margin no longer matters when you've made that customer for life because you did something so embarrassing.
Yeah, it's like I like Todd Capone's book, The Transparency Sale, and there's like a lot of similar concepts of that. We all read the book. I pulled out the key parts I thought, and I was like, we're going to review this together. And it's like, all right, how can we use this? And then like the next day I was like, all right, the way we present pricing, it's changed. The way, and we had like 3 or 4 key things from that we made changes on. Here's how we talk about the competitors when people ask, right?
Yeah.
Here's like
That's rad.
where we're not as good. And again, like every product is getting so similar, and like it's getting easier to build software, therefore everything looks like, therefore the value of the seller and that experience who's going to go buy 10 pieces of lumber to show that like, hey, I got to hit this thing, it matters. Mm-hmm. So like I think go to market and how you sell is just becoming more and more important every day. Like, look, if you're at the Cursor or whatever the AI flavor hottest company of the week is, but like 99% of us are not that, right? So it matters a ton.
So are you mentoring anybody on your team into how to use the LinkedIn playbook? Or is it mostly just founder playbook for you? Like,
yeah,
is there a...
There was one person that worked here that ran growth. She wanted to go work at a big company because she about to be a mom, and I was like, yes, probably isn't the type of company to do that.
Yeah.
She was doing it. Otherwise, no. And like, I actually have that on like some like marketing lists right now. Like, should we try to get that going again? I probably should, but we haven't yet.
Yeah, I saw Morgan's an advisor. Does he help the team figure out how to post?
He helped in the beginning quite a bit, and basically it was like, you have to want to do this, right? Like some people be like, yeah, I want to do that, but like, okay, do you actually, and does it really make sense, right? Like our rep will post stories once in a while, but he's not consistent. When I ask him, he's like, look, if you give me like 3 hours to prospect, I'm going to go get a meeting in my best account ever. So like I get this general awareness play from a company standpoint, but like for me, I'd rather just do this. And I'm like, cool, I'm never going to get you to write 3-4 times a week. And like, that's fine. Right. So I think I'm just like, it has to make sense and you have to want to do it.
Yeah, you're in a great space though, Todd. I was going to ask, is there pressure now that you've got almost 30,000 followers and you've written bangers? Is the bar now overwhelming? But it doesn't sound like it. Like you can put one out and you enjoy the process.
I honestly don't think about it. I just write 3 times a week. When I have good ideas, I capture them, and I'm just going to keep doing that until Champify doesn't exist. Do I wish the number keeps going up? I actually don't care at all about the number. Like all I really care about is how many of our ICP is engaging with me. That's the only thing I care about. Like I know I could like go back 2 years and like write a carousel or like write some AI hack. Like it just doesn't matter. Right? Like I don't care at all. I get people offering, hey, you want to make X $1,000 in posts? I don't do any of it. It's 100% sole focused of like, get my ICP at Champify, to know how we think, and that's it.
So how do you evaluate that?
I had this guy that I know from LinkedIn that did this report like 6 months ago for me. And he was like, here's the makeup of your followers. Here's the industry they're in, the verticals they're in, the size of companies. And he's like, you have lower followers than a lot of your peers, but you have a higher concentration of this company. I'm like, great. That's because I'm writing for that 25-year-old at a 1,000-person software company. And like, I don't try to appeal. That's the one other thing that I'm not sure of. And I met one other founder who exited 2 companies. He's like, you should write more founder brand stuff. But I'm like, we don't sell to SMBs. So like, I don't really care if a bunch of 10-person, 5-person company founders are following me.
Yeah.
They're going to find you anyway. Finding predictable revenue, like that's kind of expected, but now that book is so old. But the finding some like the sales leadership advice posts, like the Scott Leese books, it's like, where as a founder are you finding this stuff? You know, I'll meet founders all the time and say, oh, have you read this? It's like, that's a great book to recommend an AE in their 5th year. What are you doing reading that instead of getting the basics down? Like PR, like whether you like that strategy or not, at least it's a thought experiment on here's an identification of who you are and how you're going to talk to them and what you're going to do. That's, I think, a pretty good use of brain power. But, you know, there are some of these books that it's like, what are you trying to get out of it? Like Challenger Sale is a great one. When the founders find Challenger Sale, I think it's so funny because there's really only 3 pages that make sense in the Challenger Sale for an early stage founder, I think. But, you know, but they want to talk about other things because it's a very academic book. And so the nerdy founders, they want that. They want to go chew on that.
I think one thing I didn't talk about that's probably worth it also is just like, and Morgan taught me this, he was like, come up with your 3 or 4 themes of like the things that the points you want to get across. And then that's much easier to capture ideas under themes, right? So like, I would have been able to get this going faster. Or maybe like attack the enemy is one theme, but there's like 3 or 4, and then you constantly have ideas in each one of them. I think if I figured that part out earlier, it would have been better. Like now for me, it's like, share something interesting we're doing in the business. Share stuff I'm learning from customers, right? Share some mistakes of things that I've fucked up in the past. Like there's a handful of themes, and I think that also helps you get past the like, I'm a month into this, no one's seeing my shit, I'm gonna stop, right? Because that's really the enemy of this game.
Does your team record most of their sales calls?
Yeah.
Do you have a call and review? We're doing a project right now where we're actually using recorded call transcripts to go identify customer themes and problems and pull it into demand writing, which has been super fascinating for us to look at because Job and I both came from the sales side.
We have the same project going on right now, and I think I've like almost talked about Champify too little in my content. And I think there's a lot of people like, yeah, I heard of that guy. He sounds smart about sales. What's that thing? Right? So like now I have certain triggers from our call recording of like trying to find the numbers and wins and like craft some stories around telling that. So it's like getting more social proof on LinkedIn, which is
that's cool.
Like that's like right now I'm like, okay, the like top of my Notion doc that has all my posts, like tell the stories, social proof, idiot, keep doing it, social proof, you know, like, because it's less natural to go like, oh, look how cool our product is. But like, I also now I've built this audience, I want to be able to tell them, look, we're actually delivering a lot of results.
Saturday, Tuesday, Thursday, but do you think like maybe you'll start planning, okay, every Thursday post, I'm going to focus on Champify?
Kind of something like that. I'm not super religious. I'm not also like the most scientific with this, but I kind of have like, again, those themes and I'm like, make sure I'm working them in, but I'm not like, all right, every Thursday, the next 7 weeks, I'm doing this thing. I just am like, write 3 times a week, focused on the hook.
Yeah.
Get vulnerable once in a while. Try to sprinkle in some social proof. Because like, again, it doesn't matter. Like you don't know what's going to work. And it's just like a game of consistency.
Is there like a product that's coming up or something that's Champify centric, that's a story that you want to just rip right now?
So here's my take on the market. I think someone asked like some hot takes or whatever. I think that AI is making it so easy to get all of this information on companies. Like never before could you be like, find me all the podcasts, get me the job descriptions, read their 10K. Like it's getting so easy to get information on accounts. The problem is it's getting really easy for all your competitors to get all that information. So the power of what I call like third-party information that anyone can access, using that is going to go down every single day, like how valuable that is. And what our whole thesis as a company is the first party interactions, relationships, previous communication is going to keep getting more important. And we see this with our customers. We have about 100 customers, and the adoption of our core product, which is basically, I have former users, buyers, people that have interacted us, they're now at new jobs, I want to know where they are. The adoption of our product's going up, like pretty dramatically. And the reason is the alternative prospecting, like per unit, per hour of work someone can do, is getting less effective, right? So our next iteration of the product is what we call Insider AI, which instead of pointing AI at drafting an email, which everyone can do, or setting up a trigger because someone has a new case study, which all of your competitors can do, it's pointing AI at call transcripts and CRM data to understand, hey, when's the right time to re-engage an account based on something they said in a call 18 months ago? Or what is the right message to go back to this person on a closed loss op from 6 months ago and they said follow up in 2 quarters, right? So basically pointing AI at more first party data, which again, I think is going to keep getting more valuable as AI and execution of all of these signals keeps getting easier and easier.
Yeah, that's great. I did my first alumni campaign in about 2013. My buddy Kyle Morris was a consultant for us when I was at AdRoll. We basically went and found anybody at an ad agency who left and went to another ad agency. And we just tried to be like goodie basket on their desk, how to go there as fast, as hard as possible. And now, like, yeah, there's some other people who have figured out that that's a strategy, but there's not that many people who use it and use it well. And as a sales leader, building a big team, the number one question my boss had was like, go make sure that you can prove that you're hiring people who've been successful without a Rolodex. Because in an outbound sales world, you got to prove that you can just go do it cold. But now I think we're going to start seeing the relationships matter and the Rolodex come back. And like you're talking about, I don't think that's necessarily like the Rolodex has this name and phone number in it, but it has here's somebody that I've touched before. Here's what that looks like. 100%. Our company's had an interaction before. How do we go and actually, have a real conversation with somebody that's human? Because otherwise they're going to wonder if they're talking to a bot. I think that's also where video comes in too, right?
And just all of this content goes like, look, at some point I'm going to work somewhere else, and like all this interaction, it's not lost, right? Like, oh, I got value from your stuff over the last 5 years. Like, are they going to answer my email or some random SDR, right? Like, so I couldn't agree more with that.
That's great. Well, it's been great to get to know you a little bit, and this is a really cool conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate you guys having me on.
Cool.